Welcome back to another episode of Legacy Battle. I am Michael Adams, the host, your panelist tonight from the Gridiron Battle Zone, Brian King, Steelers Nation South, Rollo Cawthon. We are going to be discussing the PGA Champions Tour majors, and we are joined by a PGA alum and current PGA Champions Tour golfer. He has 8 professional tournament wins. He has been golfing professionally since 1976, so you know we're going to get some great stories about all-time greats. We want to welcome Mike Reid, aka Radar. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for hosting this and for inviting me. It's an honor.
Awesome. Let's jump in. Rollo, start out with the first tournament.
So I got the first tournament is the Senior PGA Championship, which established in 1937 is the oldest of the 5 major senior championship events. It is also recognized as a major on both the PGA Tour Champions and the European Tour. It began at Augusta National for the first 2 years. And then was moved to the senior rich state of Florida from 1940 to 2000. It has been to 16 different locations since 2000, and the Golf Club of Harbor Shores has hosted 6 times in that span. That's a Jack Nicklaus course, by the way. It's a stroke play format, and it has a purse of $3.5 million. There have been 15 players to win 2 or more senior PGA chips, with Sam Snead winning 6 in a 9-year span from 64 to 73. Hale Irwin has won 4, and the Americans have won 30 of the last 44 events, but foreign-born players have won 8 of the last 10. There have been 11 players to win both the senior PGA and the traditional PGA Tour, with Sam Snead winning 9 times between the two, and the Golden Bear winning 6 times between the two. In 2024, Richard Bland won both the U.S. Senior PGA Championship and another event we're going to mention a little bit later. And in 2005, a golfer named Mike Reid won this major over Jerry Pate and Dana Quigley in a playoff.
Mike, tell us about 2005 winning this tournament. Like, how did you pull that one off?
Well, I'd come off of a stretch of really not playing very well, so I went in with fairly low expectations, but I just found something in my swing that week, and it was interesting how the week started, though, because there was a lot of discussion in the locker room about the size of the purses that had been growing on the PGA Tour and our tour, and I happened to be out at a Boston market on Tuesday night, and behind me in the line comes Jerry Pate and his wife, Susie. And then there's Bruce Litsky. Pretty soon we pulled all the tables together, as was pretty common on the Champions Tour. And we started talking about this discussion about the purses and the money. And Jerry had researched it pretty carefully. And I remember he turned to me and he said, I mean, look how much we're playing for this week. Even if you finish in second place, you're going to win blah, 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 $1,000. And he looked right at me and he said, you'd take that, wouldn't you? And the words kind of got stuck in my stomach. I couldn't, I kind of blurted out, well, yeah, that'd be great. And darned if, 5 days later, we're on the 72nd green and he's got a 3-footer to win. And I'm already thinking I'm going to shake his hand and say, congratulations, Jerry. Just like it worked out on Tuesday night, I got second place. And he missed that putt and we went into a playoff. The situation changed in such a way that I could have never imagined. And there I was holding the trophy.
Awesome. 2005 Boston market. Yeah, you can't find those anymore.
No.
I used to love their Boston Carver sandwiches. Excellent tournament. And Rollo, I forgot that it was not in Florida the entire time there. So good information. Thank you. Brian, let's go to your first one.
All right, so we got the Senior Players Championship, established back in 1983. It's been played at the Firestone Country Club up in Akron, Ohio, for the past 6 years. Before that, it was held at a variety of courses, including Fox Chapel up in Pittsburgh, TPC of Michigan, Baltimore East Course, Sawgrass, and Canterbury. Age minimum is 50 years old. It's always played in July. The tournament record was set by the great Jack Nicklaus, a score of -27 in 1990. The first ever winner of this event was Miller Barber in 1983. Bernhard Langer won it the most times, and he has the most consecutive times, 2014, 15, and 16. Only 3 men have ever won this event, plus the Players' Championship during their careers. We got Jack Nicklaus, Raymond Floyd, and Fred Couples. The 2024 winner was the pride of South Africa, Ernie Els, and the largest margin of victory was turned in by the legendary Arnie Palmer, an 11-stroke victory back in 1985.
Well, that's interesting that Jack shooting a minus 27 didn't have the largest victory there. Interesting. So, Mike, you finished top 10 twice in this tournament, never actually pulled off the win though. So, tell us about it. Any memories that you have from it? Maybe one of the courses that you disliked?
No, I enjoyed that tournament. It's a very exclusive tournament, and I remember the one we played, I think, in Dearborn, Michigan at the TPC up there. I think we were there for a couple of years, and it's a lovely golf course and a great time of year to be up there. I wish I had more memories of the golf, but I just remember that we were close to the manufacturing plants, the GMs and that, and there was a beautiful museum there that honored Henry Ford and some of the other inventors. And I just remember attending that with my family and thinking what a well done museum that was. But some call the Champions Tour kind of a museum of golfers, and we get out there every week, and it's quite a congenial atmosphere. And I don't have any memories of the tournament specifically. It must have been a pretty forgettable one.
So I am representing the Senior British Open, played in July, began in 1987, did not become a major until 2003. So $2.75 million purse. I don't know if that's in pounds or whatever, but that's what they give out. That was in 2023, so it might have gone up here a little bit in the last year or two. But in 2018, they decided to let all winners prior to 2003 be credited with a major win. So everyone got backdated on that, which I thought was very kind of them to do. 7 players have won multiple times, including 3 times by Tom Watson and Gary Player, 2 Hall of Famers right there. Bernhard Langer, he holds the record with 4. And he also holds a tie for the record best score at minus 18 under par. And he's tied with Stephen Dodd, who actually just did that match that a few years ago. Let's see, July of 2025 will mark the 7th different course that it has been played on over there in the United Kingdom. And tournaments have come down to a playoff 11 times. And if you think about that, it hasn't been going on that long. So there is a lot of playoffs in this tournament, which is, playoffs is the most exciting thing in golf. It's get it in first or go home. So just a really great tournament. And I love that they made it a major. Mike, your best showing here was 31st. I have to imagine that for senior tour players, the winds over there and especially the weather can be horrible in the United Kingdom, really affect the golf play.
Yeah, they do. And I remember my first one was at Portrush in Ireland, and the weather played a big role in that. I believe that was won by Bruce Vaughan in a playoff with Tom Kite. And what sticks in my memory about that event was I was paired the first 2 days with Graham Marsh. Was a good friend, played a lot of PGA Tour golf together, and it was nice to be reacquainted with Graham, to see his very strong, solid game. And we came around to the back 9, and on one of the par 3s, I think around number 12 or 13, there was a hole-in-one contest with it. Isn't that unusual? But what made this unusual was that for every yard the hole played, they would give away a bottle of wine for a hole-in-one. It was playing like 174 that day, a little downhill. And so you'd get 174 bottles of wine. And I didn't think much about that until Graham holed it out. Hole-in-one.
Oh,
He's excited.
Wow.
He's in, well, I've got all this wine. What am I going to do with it now? And so we finished that day, and that would have stood alone as a memory, except he made an ace on it the next day. And so
Wow.
Yeah, that was kind of unusual. And the other story I remember at Sunningdale, I had my son Johnny caddying for me, and uh, somewhere I think on Friday afternoon, I got kind of frustrated, and I don't lose my temper that often, but I kind of lost it then, and I started whining to my son. I missed a 3/4 8-iron. I said to my son, that's my bread and butter shot. I hit that shot in my sleep. That's what I made a living with, that shot on the tour. And now I'm pulling it into the I just can't. And my son turned to me and he says, Dad, why don't you focus on what you can do instead of what you can't do? I've seen you on the range. I've seen these other guys. You got a lot of horsepower in there. Why don't you focus on what you're doing well instead of always griping about what shots you miss? And so it changed my thinking just that quickly. And I played well the rest of that day when I just changed my attitude from thinking about the things that could go wrong instead of thinking about what I was doing well. It was kind of a revelation.
Smart kid.
Yeah.
All right, Rollo, what is your final major?
I got the U.S. Senior Open, established in 1980. It's probably the most prestigious of the five majors on the Tour Championship circuit. It's stroke play style event, and in 2024, the total purse was $4 million. You can be a professional or amateur as long as you have a handicap index not exceeding 2.4, and you must be 50 years old at the start of the championship. Local qualifying takes place at 32 sites in 25 U.S. states. But as of 2025, Don Pooley is the only player to win the U.S. Senior Open after advancing through qualifiers. Americans have won 32 of the total 44 U.S. Senior Opens, but four foreign-born players have won the last three events. Miller Barber has won the most U.S. Senior Opens. He won 3 and 4 years from 1982 to 1985. Jack Nicklaus, the Golden Bear, which has been mentioned on all these courses, and Hale Irwin are 2 of 6 others with at least 2 wins. And Bernard Langer is the oldest champion at 65. There were 4 golfers who have won it at the 50 years old qualifying age. And the oldest golfer to make the cut was Harold McSpadden in 1990 at the age of 80. There have been 8 people to win both the U.S. Senior Open and the traditional U.S. Open, and 3 players have won it the same year. Jack Nicklaus, Jeff Maggart, and Steve Stricker. Fun fact, there have been 23 hole-in-ones at the U.S. Senior Open, and Frank Bensel Jr. had 2 in back-to-back holes in 2024.
Yeah.
Impressive. Mike, the U.S. Senior Open, as you said, it's a very prestigious tournament. You never won this one, but I know you played in it several times. And what's it like being out there with amateurs?
You know, I love the U.S. Open, and I played in many of those, the Senior Open as well. And I love them for the same reasons, because they really are. A lot of tournaments have the name Open attached to it, but these are truly open. And you say playing with amateurs. It's great to be able to play in a tournament that is open to everyone. And if you can hit the ground with a golf club and have a low enough handicap and make it through the qualifiers, there you are. And I think that's something very kind of American, I guess, about that, and very good. And I've enjoyed that's something special. Anyone has played in a USGA event will tell you it's pretty special. They do a great job of setting up the golf course and preparing it, and to say nothing of the fact they choose really good venues for these events. And I've tried to qualify for it. I think those are the last few competitive outings I had before I kind of hung it up a few years ago, was trying to get in one more USGA event. But they're wonderful. My memory, although I never played that great in the Senior Open, I was paired with Lauren Roberts the third round of the Senior Open when it was at Prairie Dunes in Kansas. I'm kind of guessing at what year that would have been, probably around 2008, 9, 10-ish. And Lauren and I played a lot of golf together, and he's certainly one of the great putters of all time, boss of the Moss. And so I would say, gotten pretty used to seeing him hole putts from every corner of the green, and rescuing pars from unbelievable places, mainly because of his great putting skills and short game ability. But that day was something special. And by the end of the round, I remember turning to my caddy and saying, "Have you ever seen anything like this?" And he says, "No, I don't. I had no idea what he was shooting, but it was really low." And we signed the scorecard, and it was a 63, which is a competitive record in U.S. Opens. And I was a eyewitness for that. And it was Lauren Roberts. It was just vintage Lauren Roberts, just beautiful. But he did hit a lot of fairways and greens that day too.
And whenever they're named dunes, there's a lot of sand out there, so that makes it harder.
Yeah.
All right, Brian, what's your final major?
All right, got the tradition established in 1989, and it's been played at Greystone Country Club in Birmingham, Alabama, for the past 8 years. Before that, it was held at a variety of courses, including Shoal Creek, Crosswater, the Reserve, and Desert Mountain. Age minimum again 50 years. It's usually played in late May or early June. The tournament record score was set by Doug Toole, a score of minus 23 in 2001. And then in 2023, that mark of minus 23 was tied by Steve Stricker. The first ever winner of this event was Don Bees in 1989. Jack Nicklaus won it the most times, 4 in all, 1990, 91, 95, and 96. Steve Stricker, he's dominated this tournament recently, and he could threaten Jack's record. Stricker has won 3 times, 2019, 2022, and 2023. The 2024 winner was American golfer Doug Barron. And the largest margin of victory was turned in by the aforementioned Doug Toole, a 9-stroke victory over Mike McCullough in 2001.
Mike, you won this one, correct?
Yes, I did. 2009.
Tell us about that victory.
Again, not unlike the senior PGA. Towards the end of the, I was trying to chase down John Cook all day, and I think I was 1 stroke behind. It just missed a putt I thought I made on the 17th to tie, but from the fairway, both of us were in the fairway, and I'm thinking probably what most people are. If he gets this on the green, it's over. The way he was putting, especially, but he pushed it into the bunker, and I thought, well, here's my opportunity, and I did the same thing, pushed the ball into the same bunker. He came out with for John, not a very good shot, probably left him 20, 25 feet away. And I looked at my lie, which wasn't that great. And I said, with a lot of green to work with, this is the perfect place for the chunk and run. So I took a mighty lash at it. You kind of try to hit those fat a little bit to make sure they run. And it came off better than I could have hoped for. I rolled within inches of the hole. In fact, it almost went in. And so John and I went into a playoff, and I holed about a 10, 12 footer for birdie. And again, I think the 2 most surprised people that day were John Cook and me. Because it just didn't look like that anywhere on the back 9. But you just have to be, I guess, ready when opportunity knocks, and that's the way it worked out for me. But again, another sidelight. My son was caddying for me, but this time it was a different son. It was my older son. And when we were on the golf cart going back to the playoff on the 18th tee, we got out of the cart, and he kind of looked at me before we started walking, and he says, "Dad, are you okay?" And, I guess trying to gauge my, how nervous I was or anything. And I said, "Well, yeah." I said, "Yeah, I'm okay. I'm really nervous, but I think I'm got it under control." And he said, well, that's good. I said, "I just wanted you to know that being in a playoff this week and having a chance to win, that was my goal this week as a caddy." And he said, "I'm not nervous at all." And I thought, well, that's good for you. You're just carrying the bag. But, I hadn't looked at it from his perspective before. You tend to get very self-absorbed, I think, in situations like that. And you have to be And you have to be. I think you have to be a little bit selfish to win championships and think solely about what you're doing and how to control your golf ball, stick to your game plan. It's all about you. And in that moment, my son kind of reminded me that, man, maybe it isn't all about me. I've helped him meet his goal this week. Well, let's see if I can finish this job. And I think that little ounce of optimism uh, is just the kind of little things that really are the big things in golf. If you talk to any swing instructor or any touring pro, and you're getting me to talk about the few wins I've had and it's always the little things are the big things. You're correcting somebody's swing. Uh, the little things are the big things. And sometimes it's not even some little thing that you think you can go in there and deliberately fix. Um, and I think in that moment, I kind of had that occur to me that what was it that Plato once said that all learning is remembering. And when you're trying to help good players with their swing or help my son trying to help me win a tournament that day, he didn't have to tell me, didn't have to reinvent the wheel or pull a bunny out of the hat. He just had to help me remember something. And I think that's what makes golf the kind of interesting, intriguing, and bewildering game that it is at times.
Excellent. Nice job, guys. If you're a fan of the majors and you're listening to this, in our archives, we got the PGA Tour majors with Tom Purtzer and the LPGA Tour majors with Sherry Steinhauer and Nicole Felci from the LPGA. So be sure to check those out. Let's move into our Q&A. Rollo, Brian, me.
Mike, you once dueled it out with Payne Stewart in an event, and when you had a quote, "Sports is like life with the volume turned up." Tell us about that day, and what do you remember about that moment with Payne Stewart?
It was probably the worst fun I ever had. Uh, I I still think about that week occasionally, and everything kind of seemed to collide in that moment. But I was playing such good golf that week. I felt like I could do anything I wanted to with a golf ball, and the last few holes, I had a putt stop dead in the hole short on the 14th hole that I think would have changed the complexion of things quite a bit. I had the lead at that time, but that would have made it one stroke more. But I got it up and down out of a terrible lie off the green at 15 to save par, and I'm doing all that I can to stay aggressive and to play well. And as I'm walking to the 16th tee, somebody in the crowd said, "Be assertive." And so I got to the 16th tee, water on the right, rough on the left. You got to carry water to get to the green. And I must have been thinking about what I'd heard, which you shouldn't ever do. But I got a little too assertive and put the drive a little to the right. The wind carried it a couple of bounces, and it's in the water. So I think, well, that's not bad. I've got the lead. And I did. I got that up and down to save a bogey. And I get to 17, and I'm again thinking I got to play aggressive. I can't, because if you hit it in the middle of the green at 17 at Kemper Lakes, you're likely going to three putt anyway. And so I hit it right at the pin. It just didn't stop quickly enough. And I was in, again, an unusual lie. It almost looked like somebody had stepped on it. And instead of putting it or, kind of blading a wedge, I tried to go with an open face sand wedge and hit it like a sand shot. I dumped it short and was so aggravated that I three putted, and all of a sudden I'm just a stroke behind. And just things happen so quickly, and you when you have an opportunity to win a major like that, and then you come up short. I hit two great shots on 18 and missed from about 7 or 8 feet for birdie there, and it passes you like a stranger in the crowd, and. And now, in that moment, though, I knew if I was going to heal from it, um, I had to be sincere about congratulating Payne, and I was happy for him. He had the nickname of Avis because he was always coming in second, and I knew intimately how much that hurt. Great a player as he was to keep falling short. And so he shot something like 32 on the back nine. I wasn't watching the leaderboard that closely, but I kind of said to him, "Hey, where did you come from?" And, gave him a hug, way to go, and all that. And that started that healing. But, you know, again, like a stranger in a crowd, that opportunity comes. And for me, that was my best opportunity. And, as sincerely as I was about being happy for Payne, it hurt, and that's what you work so hard for in golf. And I was thinking at the time that it would be a stepping stone, but and that's what other guys had come from losing majors and then winning them, and I just thought that's another step in the process, and I kept working towards that, but it just wasn't to be. And I was so thrilled, I think, when Jack Nicklaus, who was doing the color commentary for ABC, came down in the locker room and he waited for me after the press was finished. And that he didn't have to do that. And he came to the locker room and he said, he just put his arm around me and he said, "I feel worse for you than anybody." He said, you won that tournament. You played well enough to win that tournament. It just didn't work out. He says, and you don't just keep your chin up and keep going. But that made a difference to me, and that's very memorable that day to have someone like that care to come down in your locker room and say that.
Good, Brian.
Okay, Mike, obviously people may know about you. You have the nickname Mike Radar Reid. How did you get that name, and who gave that name to you?
If you've been on any teams of any kind, a college team I was on at BYU, there's always the guy on the team that gives everybody a nickname. And Jimmy Blair from northern Utah, he was the guy on our team. And he, if you've ever been to people have a little twang. It's not quite a Pittsburghy twang, but it's a twang. And everybody called me Reader, but the way Jimmy said it, it sounded like radar. And so that sort of stuck for a while. And then when I started to play on the PGA Tour and Gary McCord went into the booth and he started calling me Radar on CBS, then all of a sudden it was out. It was everywhere. And that's how I got that nickname. But, it seemed to fit pretty well with hitting the fairways and hitting the greens. But it just sure didn't start that way. And I'm glad of that nickname because it's a lot better than a lot of the nicknames I hear out there.
So I want to ask you, you got a professional win on the Japan Golf Tour. Is it anything like the differences in baseball we see between Japan and America? Like everything is just absolutely professional. You can't spit on the field, you can't bump the umpires, things like that. Is there anything different about the game of golf over there that we would over here be like, wow, that's kind of interesting?
Well, every course I've ever played over there is immaculate, and everywhere I've been over there, you have female caddies who wear those rice hats, and they're very well mannered and very well schooled on everything in golf and how to caddy, and so that's different. But as far as the X's and O's you're talking about, every course I've played in Japan has two greens, one for the winter, one for the summer. And depending on the heat, the grass in the summer greens uh, is good in the May through October, and then you go to the winter greens, and that's kind of curious about it over there. But they're just beautiful courses, and they have such an interest and really a reverence for the game that you almost don't see in America. It's very special to play over there. And when you talk about the tournament I won, I've got to tell this story. I was paired with Sevi the last day, Sevi Ballesteros, and he had been a friend, close friend of my brother's actually, when he was general manager of the TPC at Sawgrass. And I'd gotten to know him, and we'd played a lot of practice rounds together, and I was always flattered. He would ask me to play practice rounds, and he would say on the first tee, "You give me one tip about driving, and I will tell you something about the short game." And so I always came out better on that deal. And so I had, really loved playing with him. And we were both had a chance to win this on Sunday, but he kind of went south a little bit on the back nine and drifted a few strokes out with some bogeys. And I birdied 15. And now I'm tied for the lead. Maybe I'm one ahead. I can't remember, but I get to the 16th tee, and this guy comes out of the camera tower and he goes, "Your group must stop playing right now because you're ahead of the camera coverage." And I went, "Oh my gosh, we're playing too fast." "Oh yeah, you're playing too fast." So he says, "You're gonna have to wait 20 minutes." And I'm just birdied 15, and I'm going crazy. I'm walking around, and I don't know what to do with myself. And Sevi, quite contrary to the reputation he has in America, he's a great guy. And he walked over to me, puts his arm around me, and he says, "You will win this tournament. You are better than that man. You're a team." He says, You just have to play your game. You play your game, these last 3 holes, you win." He says, "Don't worry about the thing. You play your game." And I thought, how many guys in that situation? Now, granted, he's not going to win the tournament. He's too many strokes away. But how many guys would come up to you and say something like that? And I did. I played my game the last couple of holes, and I won by 1 or 2 shots. I mean, it was. I just thanked Sevi for it, because in that moment, it was hard to. I'm ready to hit that tee shot on 16, and all of a sudden, timeout. So
Great job. Rollo, go ahead.
So your father was in the Air Force, and you
yes.
moved around a lot as a kid. How did you start picking up? What made you pick up golf, and when did you realize that you were pretty good at it?
Well, I started following my 2 big brothers at age 5. We were at our backyard was a 10th rough on a golf course in Alabama where my dad was stationed. And he'd come home every day from work, and we'd go out in the backyard, and he'd help us with our swings. And then the rest of the time we'd play on our own. And at the time, I didn't think moving every 2 or 3 years was very good. You lose all your friends. You have to go to new schools, and I did that quite regularly growing up. But when I look back, I realized that was a perfect upbringing for a professional golfer, because by the time I was 18, I had played on every different kind of grass, every different kind of climate, humidity, altitude. Didn't matter whether it was bluegrass, bent grass, and Bermuda. I could play off anything. And so that's a good background for the PGA Tour. And I just kept playing along, because that was where my dad wanted to teach my brothers and I what he thought were the 3 social graces: golf, playing bridge, and dancing. He never got around to bridge or dancing, but he taught us how to play golf. And so everywhere we went to the golf course to make friends. And so regardless of whether I was, more interested in basketball or for some of these other sports, when we moved, we went to the golf course. That's what we did. And so I started realizing at about 14 or 15 that I, I had won a couple of junior tournaments, and I thought this might be something I could do. And then I opened up Golf Week magazine, and I looked in the scoreboard column, and I realized, hey, guys are getting paid for playing golf. And that was a revelation to me. I thought, look at this. You don't even have to win, and you can make, look at this money these guys are making. And this was in, you know, this was in 1970 or so, or before that, probably 67, 68. And I'm thinking, hey, that's a pretty good racket. Because my dad always said, if you find something you really love in life, find a way to get paid for it. And I knew I loved golf. And so that was really my start.
So, Mike, just to kind of build off of that, I understand you have kind of a big family, 6 children, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
What was it like, during your career trying to balance, golf with the family life?
It's never easy, and I see these guys now whose games on the tour, I still follow it a little bit. They arguably kind of have a drop off, and you can almost see it coming, in your career, where everything is, when you're out there discovering it with your wife, and then maybe you have a baby you can share all these places and experiences with, but when they start going to school, that's the one change nobody liked to make, because now you're back out there traveling alone again, and there's nothing easy about it. And I don't think there's any substitute for a really exceptional wife. You just have to have a good wife. In golf, there's no substitute for practice. And in family and blending family and golf life on the tour, there's no substitute for a really good wife. And if you look at down the list of guys who have won an awful lot on the PGA Tour, you need to look no farther than their wife to know they're pretty special people. And the focus you have to have is the same focus, that you have to have if you're balancing any work and family life. You have to be 100% there at work, and then when the page turns and you go home, you have to be 100% at home. And it really takes a pretty special wife to be able to say, boy, I don't mind that you play so much golf, just play good. Don't we all like to hear that on Saturday morning walking out the door?
Amen.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm gonna get you out of here with a less emotional question. You played in the golden era of golf. We got Jack, Arnie, Trevino. I mean, just three of the greatest of all times. And do you have any maybe story or anything about one of them, or something that maybe they taught you, or something that just sticks out in your mind about getting to play with them?
Well, whether it was practice or tournament, I always, you don't have any trouble getting up for playing with the greatest, for one thing. And the other is I always like to think before the night before about a question I could ask them that I could learn something about. And these fellows, to a man, are all very, they'll volunteer and they'll try to help you. I've had Tom Watson give me bunker lessons. And I mean, it's just their information they have is, they don't guard it. They'll give you that information. What you do with it is your business and that. But, I could have so many stories, but one sticks in my mind, and that was at the International in Colorado. I was paired with Jack Nicklaus the final day, and this was the late '80s. He'd won the Masters in '86. There was still some gas in the tank, and I knew what we both had to be thinking in that Stableford format, which is if you make a birdie or an eagle, a couple of birdies, you can run down these leaders and post a score, and maybe it'll make a difference. And so we were kind of in that, 15th to 20th, probably closer to 15th position, 10th position. So we're trying to push something into the clubhouse. And Jack had that kind of start, no eagles, but some birdies. He's climbing up the board. He gets to 14, and 14's a par 5. 17's another 5 that's even shorter, but 14, Jack blistered a drive. He's got about 240 downhill into a tucked pin. And I walk over to see what he's going to do, because I have a feeling something pretty special is going to happen. And he still hit the 1-iron in those days. He pulls out the butter knife and hits a 1-iron higher than I could hit a 9-iron. It comes down on the front part of the green, releases a little, it gets to the back fringe. So he's got about a 25-footer for eagle. I mean, it was just majestic to see this shot. I'm thinking, just sent chills down my spine. And I'm thinking, just like I did with the second shot, something pretty special is going to happen on this putt. And so he gets over it in that characteristic hunch, and he's gives it the stroke, and it takes the first break perfectly. It crests this hill, and it takes the second break, but not quite enough. And it just rims out on the top edge. And the bleachers around the green in chorus, they were just, oh, like that. And Jack is looking to the sky, and I walk past him to put my ball down, and I said something weak like, nice effort or good putt. And I'll never forget what he said. He kind of said, well, and it's my Jack voice, he says, well, I made it, it just didn't go in. He said, I made it, it just didn't go in. And in that moment, I got an insight, at least a small glimpse to the way at least this great player thinks. Because how many guys would have banged a putter off their shoe, hollered curses at the heavens and that. How can that ball do that? But not Jack. In his mind, he made it. It just didn't go in. That's the strength of mind I think you have to be as good as he was for as long as he was. You have to live in that world. And it's a rare quality, but I think that's the special nature of that man. And I got to see it in that moment, and it was pretty special.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for sharing your time and your stories with us. Really good stuff.
Oh, yeah, it's an honor. Thank you.
I'll remind everybody, hit that like, subscribe, notification button. We'll see everybody next time. Have a great night.